So my name's Michael Ryder. I'm co-head of the Igneo Infrastructure business in North America and have been with Igneo for the past 18 months. So thinking about how our outlook for unlisted infrastructure in 2024 will compare to last year, we expect to see a rebound from what was a slower year in 2023 from a fundraising and transaction volume perspective. Infrastructure has matured as an asset class over the past decade, and this is the first major test of its performance through a slowdown in the investment cycle. The good news, in my mind, is that performance has been positive, with some of the key attributes of the infrastructure asset class shining through. So inflation resilience, stability of revenues and cash flows driving returns, continued long-term value creation given the often essential nature of the infrastructure businesses, have all translated into good performance across the asset class and generally low correlation with some of the other asset class sectors. So given this strong performance, we expect the appetite for infrastructure in asset allocators' portfolios to increase, and that will drive an uptick in fundraising and in activity across the sector in 2024. Furthermore, we see a bit of a backlog in transaction activity. A number of asset owners held off on seeking capital partners or selling their businesses during the past year due to concerns about inflation, higher interest rates, and macroeconomic uncertainty, obviously. But given the improving outlook, we anticipate that a number of these owners will come to market in 2024.
I'm John Ma, partner and co-head of the Igneo Infrastructure Partners investment team in the US, together with Michael Ryder. With inflation moderating, potential rate cuts by the Fed, and the prospect of a so-called soft landing for the economy, at least here in the US, in short, we think these should all be positive factors for the unlisted infrastructure space in 2024. Michael noted that the backlog, we do see a backlog in the transaction pipeline. Having gone through a challenging period in 2023 when capital was harder to access and more expensive to come by given the rising rate environment, many asset owners have started to moderate their expectations on valuations relative to a year ago. All of which should lead to, in our minds, a more constructive environment for new investment opportunities. And from a fundraising standpoint, look, the recent dialogue we've had with our clients has been more constructive than in the early and middle parts of 2023. So we think 2024 should be a better year as denominator effect and general uncertainty around inflation, as well as uncertainty around the direction of interest rates and what the impacts might be on valuations. All of these abate a bit, and the direction of the macro economy overall eases a bit.
Well, we're actually seeing interesting investment opportunities across pretty much all of our target sectors. So obviously the key for us is to be highly selective and only pursue those opportunities where we have an angle or specific knowledge, and where we believe our proactive asset management approach can drive attractive returns. We believe the best opportunities today are in the middle market, where there tends to be less competition and where potential to build long-term sustainable value by working closely with the management teams at our portfolio companies to drive performance improvements it can be a focus for us and for those management teams across our business. And we're seeing opportunities as a result across most of our sectors. That includes renewable generation, particularly in the smaller scale community solar and C&I space. And also on the data center side in the digital sector, driven by the desire by the larger ISPs to build out capacity to meet continued growth in data demand, and obviously the growing impact of artificial intelligence. On the challenges side, I don't see anything that is unique to 2024. So overall, we see 2024 as being a pretty exciting year with lots of opportunities.
So we look at and screen and get approached on opportunities in hydrogen, in battery storage, renewable natural gas, carbon capture, biofuels, a whole range of energy transition related opportunities. What do we consider most promising? In short, we focus in areas that have proven technology and commercial models with defensive, stable characteristics. So some of the opportunities that come across our desks and that we screen still are early stage and not yet proven out in one of these respects or another. But a few comments. Given the underlying growth in power demand and the rapid transition to renewables, which are an intermittent resource, battery storage is an area where we see real opportunities. We have quite a bit of experience in batteries, given our current investments in broader renewable platforms that are diversified and that have successfully developed battery projects. So, for example, at TerraGen and Soltage in the US. The commercial model for battery storage is evolving and improving with longer and better contracting opportunities, making them more suitable as an infrastructure investment. Renewable natural gas and biofuels are also an area where we see opportunity, given the strong push and demand to decarbonize, including in sectors that are not currently suitable for electrification, such as heavy freight transportation. RNG and biofuels do have a role to play and real commercial potential. There's strong support for RNG in select areas, and even the emergence of corporate offtake contracts in what are effectively voluntary compliance markets in certain parts of the country as well. So that is an area of opportunity.
So we have a number of companies in our portfolio that are active in the energy transition. On the generation side, we have approximately 6 gigawatts of gross operating renewable generation capacity in our businesses in the US, Europe, and Australia, and more than an additional 5 gigawatts of projects that are under various stages of development. We also work with all of our portfolio companies on managing transition risks as part of our focus on building long-term sustainable value. So we've put in place key measures to ensure strong governance, for example, of the risks associated with energy transition at each of our portfolio companies, and we monitor it very, very closely. As an example, across the portfolio, we've developed a strategy and a technical roadmap to utilize carbon capture and storage technology, CCS technology, at Infinium, our waste-to-energy business in the UK, where we're seeking to permanently store GHG emissions from those assets. And then at Patriot, our investment in the US short-line railroad industry, we expect to see significant benefits as pressure builds to decarbonize the transportation sector. Rail is significantly less carbon intensive per ton of freight moved compared to trucking. And we've worked with management there on a long-term plan to significantly reduce Patriot's emissions footprint. One other example is at US Signal, our Midwest enterprise data center and fiber business. Since acquiring the business in early 2023, we have worked with the local utility to transition all of our own data centers to 100% renewable power over the next 2 years.
The Inflation Reduction Act has certainly been a boon to many parts of the renewables and energy transition sector. In the near term, it's also created some inflationary and supply chain pressures, especially for U.S. domestic suppliers and contractors. The IRA has some specific provisions that provide additional credits for the use of domestic content or domestic supply. But until manufacturing and contractor capacity further ramps up to meet that demand, which was really part of the underlying policy goal, we expect to see some continued pressure on costs. But that pressure is offset by the credits, and again, what we see as very strong underlying demand. Given these various factors, some of which sort of balance against one another, we currently see the benefits really flowing to existing incumbent players in the sector, such as TerraGen, which is the utility scale renewables platform company in our portfolio, who have a well-developed, robust pipeline of projects under development as well as strong existing vendor relationships, including with domestic manufacturers. More broadly, for some established credit programs, such as the PTC, Production Tax Credit, and then ITC, the IRA provided, much needed certainty over a longer period of time, 10 years of certainty that had been previously, compared to what had been previously available. The IRA also introduced important provisions to make some tax credits transferable, whereas before projects had to rely on pretty limited and complex tax equity structures. This combination of a longer period of certainty and transferability, we think will help make projects and companies more attractive for investment over the long run. Look, at the state and local level, we still continue to think there is a lot of action and a lot of nuance and variations from state to state. Generally speaking, as we look across the United States, there's strong underlying policy support, again, for energy transition and for renewables. And to be effective in this market, you really have to spend time and look for those opportunities at an even more local level, not just on a kind of broad national perspective.